So they just never officially said they couldn't do it. They just
No, it was kind of like there was radio silence there, and
yeah, that's interesting. I think I learned a very long time ago, a quick no is definitely worth a lot more than just ghosting somebody or disappearing.
Welcome to the Before You Buy or Sell a Business podcast, where we help buyers and sellers learn more about the acquisition process, discuss recent transactions, and stay up to date on the latest news in the market. Here's your host, Jared Johnson.
All right, so really excited today. I've got Eric and Joy Rose bought a restaurant here in Salt Lake City. So how are you doing today?
we're doing well.
Yeah, doing very well.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, you were one of the deals that we're able to complete recently, and I'm happy to talk about the journey of it. You may kind of start with your background. So maybe we'll start with you, Eric. Maybe give us some background. Where did you grow up? Education, all that fun stuff.
Well, we're here in Salt Lake City, so this is my hometown. I grew up on the west side, and I don't think I knew anything about running a business, and certainly didn't have any models in my life. My parents were both teachers and wanted me to be a teacher. And the one thing I knew is that I did not want to be a teacher.
That's how it goes sometimes.
So Joy and I met at university, and we both had a love for eating and good food, as well as adventure, and wanted to live and raise a family overseas. So that kind of connected us into my later career with the federal government, working with the State Department and doing a lot of traveling. But we after we graduated, we went back to her hometown in Cincinnati and spent time with her parents, and that's where I, even though my background in university was international relations and Russian language, I developed a real love for computers and networking. And after we got to Cincinnati, got a position with a small contracting company with Time Warner Cable, just as the high-speed internet was just taking off right around 2000. So I just fell in love with that and became a project manager, and was managing all sorts of computer technicians that were running out and installing networking cards in people's computers, and getting off with high-speed internet in the home off of dial-up, which was just huge. So I think that whet my appetite for owning a business. I kind of saw how much, for me, it was fun managing, working with people, having the opportunity to improve things. I really enjoyed that, and I think that's one of the things that appealed to me most about imagining owning my own business. And after we'd been there a few years, I did try to start up a small computer services company, repair company on the side, and that was fun. It was a big education. I realized I had no idea what I was doing. We didn't really make much money, but it was fun. And the people I was working with that were kind of partners in the business, quasi-business, I don't even know how totally legal we were, because we had no idea what we were doing. We had a business name, and
You're learning the hard way.
Yeah, we did. But that ultimately didn't work out. There wasn't much to dissolve, so it kind of was a soft landing, and that was right on the heels of kind of a market crash that was happening around that time, and lost my job, and somehow we made it into the federal government just about a year and a half later, which is in and of itself just quite a story. But that was one of our dreams, was to work and live overseas, at least a big chunk of the time. So we've been bouncing around the last nearly 20 years in the federal government, and mostly overseas in 8 different countries. Was it, Joey? 9.
Wow.
Okay, but
You lost track.
we did, and but it was fun, and that's where our children grew up, and most of them have forgiven us. And it was huge education for them, and we went to some third world countries as well as first world, and we just really enjoyed ourselves. And that, I think, further increased my desire eventually once that career was over, and I didn't quite know when. The minimum trajectory for a federal employee is 20 years to get that minimum retirement, and a lot of people enjoy it so much they do a lot more. But we really didn't know, but we were just getting to the point these last few years with children leaving home and parents getting older, and trying to think of what's next. So that was on our minds these last few years as we were making some difficult decisions just as far as family goes, and a last youngest daughter that was needing to really have a good school experience and wasn't quite having one at the time. So I really started looking seriously, and Joy was really supportive at that, and we were open to just about any business. The only thing, the stipulation Joy put on me is that she wanted to enjoy it, as she didn't just want a boring business. I would have been happy with boring as long as it made money, but as we were looking around, I think it's Biz Buy Sell as a website, which is really entertaining in and of itself, as well as fun, dreaming of all the different types of businesses that are out there. I ran across this sushi restaurant, and Joy and I have just always, ever since university when we were introduced to it, loved sushi, and we started talking about that concept. It's funny, we've over the last 20 years, we've been to some really great food cities, had some great experiences, and we'd comment to each other, or actually she would usually bring it up and say, Eric, Salt Lake City does not have this, or doesn't do this well, or this would be really fun. This would be really good. So I think that idea of a restaurant had been in the back of our minds for years. And so for me, my mind lit up when that happened. We had looked into a classic burger joint that had classic car shows every month, and that really seemed interesting too. But I think I'm really grateful that we didn't get into the hamburger industry.
Yeah, it's a tough world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I think when you and I first started talking, I believe you were in China, and I think we had to kind of exchange emails and figure out a time and to talk to each other on the phone one day, and it was kind of difficult. But so Joy, it sounds like you grew up in Cincinnati.
Yes.
What was your kind of family life like, going to school? After school, did you do anything besides chase him around?
It was the opposite.
No, I grew up in Cincinnati. My father had been with Procter Gamble his whole life, and so that's where he landed. I wanted some adventure because I was the youngest and had just been in the same home, growing up the same my whole life. So went out west to go to school. I met Eric. My background is humanities and English secondary education as far as that degree goes. But as I followed him around, I've dabbled in lots of other things and would work for the State Department as well as needed, depending on our location. And then eventually I ended up getting my acupuncture license in the UK. So I'm a licensed acupuncturist there, and I'm going to be working on, after we settle down with this, work on just being licensed here in the state of Utah. So so that'll be the next adventure. So that's my background.
So how many languages can you speak?
Define your definition of speaker. How well get by with? Yes. It seemed like we traded off in countries. So Eric's Russian and Spanish. I studied a little bit of Hebrew at the Foreign Service Institute when we were heading for Jerusalem. But I guess neither of us mentioned that right after we got married, we decided to join the military, the Army National Guard. And so we spent a year in Monterey, California at the Defense Language Institute. And that's where I studied Czech, which is my grandmother's. She's Czech. And yeah, I was able to study Czech, and we ended up being posted there with the State Department, and I still have family there. So Spanish, my Spanish is really terrible, but I guess I get by. And then Chinese, I studied a year at the Foreign Service Institute with Eric when Eric was there, and then he studied another year in Taiwan. So he got 2 years of Chinese, I got 1 year. But so it needs a lot of work still. That's
better than anybody else, though, I guess. It's interesting. I think growing up in Southern California, you learn kind of enough Spanish. But it's funny I feel like whenever I go to Mexico, it starts to come back. But then my wife, surprisingly, is like way better at it. But then she doesn't have the accent. So it's funny because I'll say something and then she'll say, "Oh, that means this," or "Oh, that." And then when she'll say it, I'm like, "You got to roll your R's, like come on." So it's pretty funny, yeah. When she can read it and understand it a lot better than I can, and she remembers it better than me. And I'm like, I'm just trying to order food. And,
It always helps to have at least one person who can do the
definitely,
do the.
And then I think you said, was that your grandfather worked for Procter Gamble?
My father.
Oh, your dad did. Okay,
yes.
my grandpa did.
Really?
He ran the Zest soap business.
Oh, fantastic!
In like Long Beach, Seal Beach area.
Oh, that's great.
California. So
everybody loves
Zest.
That's great.
Yeah.
My father used to. He was basically IT, but he'd bring home the reams of the paper with the
the holes spread outside.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, and my kids probably wouldn't even know what that is.
Yeah.
They love to steal my paper and go draw all day. So it kind of makes sense. You get a lot of people that have a very diverse background and seem to say, well, owning a restaurant or starting a restaurant would be fun. I get a lot of people that'll say, I make great lasagna, I show up in a restaurant. And we're usually like, no, like you know, there's a whole nother side of the business, right? Which I think you've probably developed through a lot of other skills. And there's so many things you have to understand in the restaurant industry. And you probably didn't even realize, like with all of your, diverse background, you were kind of learning how to eventually operate the restaurant more than just somebody that was sitting in a restaurant every day. So I think that's really interesting. So, as far as like looking at what point did you start looking for a business to buy?
Really the last maybe year and a half, when we started to see that there was writing on the wall that we needed to transition. We just didn't know quite the mechanics of it or the exact timing of it, and we played around with scenarios and numbers and so on. But that was when we really started getting serious about what comes after the federal government. I hit the magic 20 almost right on the nose. And I wondered if is that what's going to happen, or am I going to be there a little bit longer? And we've got some kind of a transition going on, but it was really difficult to say. We just really didn't know. We had envisioned staying in China for up to 6 years, which would have been a possibility, but we ended up doing the bare minimum for the, it's not quite a contract, but it's pretty similar to staying for 2 years. Yeah, the expectations there for 2 years. So that was really tough. Extracting ourselves, shortening our timeline. I'd originally committed to 3. Well, I think we did 4, and then we cut it down to 3. And then as the summer was approaching and we were trying to figure out exactly how things were going to work, especially with our daughter needing to be back here going to school and dealing with long distance family relationships and so on. It was just so tough. So extracting ourselves and making apologies and working about how to get out of the federal government and still how to manage a small business administration loan and the loss of income moving from a pretty nice federal salary that I enjoyed to a retired federal salary, which isn't quite so nice.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that, and you know, kind of how that affects things with the loan process as well. So, like when you found the listing and you started looking at it, maybe a question for Joy: what were some of the things you liked about the business that made you want to put in an offer?
Yeah, Eric was looking, and I think because we were separated and he was in China and I was over here, he would just name off different things and I would go, oh, no, too boring or something like that.
But Joy, it makes money.
But
gotta be interested, Eric.
yeah. Well, and it was, and I think for us, life gets in the way of life, and that's the biggest thing, right? Is things just happen and you just roll with it, and maybe that's probably the most valuable attribute we gained to help us in this new adventure was just going with the flow when you're in a foreign country with your kids and setting up life and doing that every few years. So
nine times.
Yeah. So I when he mentioned that, I thought, sure. I'm comfortable in the kitchen. So, and as a teenager, I usually was in the food industry area, serving or cooking or whatever. So, but the biggest thing was when we went there, and that's what sold us. And I don't know if you wanted to hear about it now or later.
Yeah, and I'll tell you kind of a funny story about the restaurant. So the broker, Josh, I had started working with him on a couple other listings, and I needed to come in to town for a couple things. And I said, hey, do you want to go to lunch? It'd be great to sit down and meet you. He said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, my wife doesn't love sushi and I love sushi. So whenever I can, I try to get sushi because she doesn't usually want to go there, and so I said, hey, I found a sushi place kind of close to your office. How does that work? And he goes, yeah, no problem. So we go there, we sit down, and he comes walking in. He goes, we have to be quiet because no one knows. He's like, but I have this as a listing. And I said, really? And he's like, I thought that's why you came here. I said, no, I wanted sushi, and they had good reviews, and it looked like a good place that was open at lunchtime. And so it was kind of funny because we sat down and then we started talking about the deal. And I think he had shared with me that you were working with a different lender at that time. And I said, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, let me know. I'll be happy to jump on the deal. So it was funny. Kind of like I didn't even know he had it as a listing. I just wanted sushi.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I could see why you liked it as well.
We should ask you.
Yeah.
What was it that appealed to you?
Yeah, I think I liked. They had good reviews when I had looked online, because coming from a whole other area of the country is like trying to find good sushi is really difficult. Yeah. So it just kind of read the reviews, and I was trying to make sure if I took somebody there, it wasn't gonna bomb. So ended up being a good place, and it was fairly busy when we were there. So I said, hey, this is a good business, and he kind of explained your situation and what was going on, and so it kind of just all worked out the way it was supposed to, I guess. So
oh, that's funny.
That's really
that's
interesting.
a great story.
Yeah, so I could see the things that you liked about the business, and I know there was a manager there, right, that had been there for a while. That seemed to be somebody that's very key when you're
he's key.
You didn't own other sushi restaurants, so it's nice to have somebody that can help you out when you get in. It's one thing we love to see as lenders is if there's some good management in place. So
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So how did the negotiations go? Did you reach out to the listing broker and just start asking for information about the business, and then ultimately how'd you decide on what to offer?
Well, we're pretty naive as far as the whole business buying, so we just kind of muddled through. Joy was, I think, depending on me to do a lot of the muddling, which I happily did.
Yeah, from the other side of the world.
It's his baby. You got to do the fun work.
But yeah, I reached out to Josh, the broker. There wasn't, obviously, on the websites that I've advertised, there's not a lot of information. Mm-hmm. You've got to sign the non-disclosure agreement, and then you can get a better peek as to what the name of the business. Sometimes you get the name of the business, but you get a little bit of a peek under the hood. And one of the things that I had certainly been I've been educating myself as best I could through YouTube and a lot of the people out there that talk about buying businesses and so on. I've got a few favorites, but one of the things that was foremost in my mind was this mantra I'd heard, and I totally agreed with, is that just be careful. Don't buy yourself a job. Mm-hmm. And that's precisely what I was looking for. Was I know that I just had this feeling, and the numbers made sense, that there's this threshold that if you buy a business that's at this certain threshold, maybe 400, 500,000 or so, then you're really mostly buying yourself a job, because there's just not enough revenue to pay for good management, and you just don't have that leeway and that flexibility. So not to say it isn't possible, but so we were looking for something that was maybe closer to $1 million. Something that we thought we could reach financially, but that also provided this some flexibility to own it, to manage it, to work in it if we wanted to, but for the business not to be dependent on our presence there every day. And I certainly had no background in restauranting at all. In fact, I delivered newspapers growing up. I was the proverbial paper boy out there delivering newspapers. So I really had no experience, and it was really a pretty scary thought in some ways. Mm-hmm. And I deferred to Joy and her knowledge as far as how restaurants work and just the functionality of who does what and where. And all I knew was that I love to eat, and I love sushi, and I thought this, and the numbers looked like they would support managing it, having fun with it. Like you said, there was a manager in place, and it looked like it was just a great opportunity. We didn't know all of the details at the time, but we were looking into those.
Yeah, it's definitely like you had mentioned. There's kind of a fine line there of are you going to be able to work on the business instead of in the business? There's so many kind of schools of thought, and there are people that are looking for a job, and that's fine. Somebody that says, hey, I have this trade down. It makes more sense for me to now buy a business. They don't want to have to report to somebody else, and they can, like you mentioned earlier, there's things that you can fix and change and work on while you own the business. I was having this conversation this morning, and it's just interesting because the broker was telling me that he's got 3 listings right now, that all 3 of them really are you're more or less buying a job. And so that's the first question he asks the buyer is, are you looking for a management team to be in place here that you're going to be maybe kind of oversee things and do some marketing or really kind of learn how to tweak the process and stuff? Or are you looking to actually be involved in the business and need to completely replace the seller's position? And most of the time they're saying, oh, I'm looking for a business where I can actually just oversee everything. I don't need to actually be, a key part of the business. And he said he had one guy that kind of went off on him and said, well, why are you even asking that? It's none of your business what I'll do with the business afterwards. And he's like, I'm trying to get you to understand that this is, if you're looking to buy this as more of an investment or to oversee it, this isn't the right business for you. I don't want to waste your time. And it's just interesting that you get kind of 2 schools of buyers that are looking for one or the other. So glad you identified that before, and this obviously made sense and worked with you. So if I recall correctly, I think the listing was at $1 million, which is kind of right where it sounds like you were looking for something that would work that had management in place. On the original agreement that we got, it was $1 million for the purchase price, and then there was a seller carry of $150,000 that was just on what we normally would call just straight repayment. So it's just a typical seller carry note where they're holding back a percentage of it, and then you would make payments to them each month. And a lot of times it works for a couple different reasons. Obviously, it keeps the seller around. If 3 years later you need something, they're probably going to pick up the phone if you still owe them money. But then it also helps you out a little bit because the rate was typically lower than what the bank's going to offer. So it helps you out with a cash flow standpoint. So that's how it came in to me. So looking back now, if you could provide maybe some advice, or if there was something you could have changed in the negotiations, is there anything there that you would have changed looking back? Maybe Joy, you want to answer?
And well, Eric knows more of just the logistics as far as, the numbers and that. But I think now that we've gotten into it, we're about a month in, and just everything really looking a little bit more under the hood, and all the maybe in our due diligence, we might have just looked more at the physical structure a little bit more, and just said, okay, maybe, we need this or that, just like you would with a home. But I think that's what I would have done. We wouldn't have changed much, I don't think, but just a little bit more things pertaining, to just maybe some of the needs, the physical needs of the restaurant itself.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, and I think looking back at it, your offer was fair. It made sense. Both parties had, some good pros to getting it to work out together. So
Definitely.
I think it was a good offer.
It was.
And then I know you had gone to another bank first, and I think if I remember correctly, the challenge you had with them was they didn't like that you didn't have restaurant experience. Is that what it was?
That and our other investments and so on, they were concerned about post-purchase income stream. So we were trying to work that out. They weren't.
Yeah. Now, and remind everybody, you were working still at this time, and we were kind of planning on you continuing to do that. So I guess I could get into that really quick. So typically when we're looking at a deal and we're looking at the financing, we will, of course, first look at the seller's information, make sure there's enough cash flow there to support the loan, that it's priced accurately, all of those good things. Then we'll look at the buyer. And really what we're trying to determine from a financial side is if you have any other sources of income coming in. And then based on that, what will it cover with your personal expenses and your debts? If we need to, then how much of a salary do we need to pull from the business you're buying to make sure that you can cover your personal expenses? So at that point in time, you had your income. We didn't need to pull anything out. You've got a good amount of excess income from the business. So when we looked at it, we said, hey, you're fine. And that's a good majority of the loans we're looking at, especially when they're not buying a job. They've got another source of income, whether it's another business, maybe a spouse that's working, something like that. So looking at it from that standpoint, when it came originally, we were, you had plenty of excess cash flow to pay back the loan. So surprised I was surprised the other bank wasn't wanting to do it. But again, that's a lot of times what you run into as well is a lot of SBA lenders, especially even more now, so they're just not wanting to do business acquisitions at all, or they don't want to do restaurants, or they don't like a certain industry, or they want to see a certain amount of cash flow, and so it's disheartening for buyers because they look at it like, oh, I can't qualify for this, I give up, because a lot of people, they will look at the way they buy a house, right, and mortgages. And for the most part, they're fairly similar wherever you go when you get a mortgage, if it fits within, the Fannie Freddie guidelines. So if one bank won't do it, it's very rare that you can just hop over to another bank and they'll be able to do it. And so people don't understand that in SBA lending, it is very different at every single bank. And so maybe a couple of those factors probably came into play, but I was glad you came to me. So
we're glad you were there.
It was kind of an odd thing because we were trying to lay all the scenario out and put all our cards on the table. And, in retrospect, I was very naive about the process and thought it would be more like a home loan and so on. And it wasn't. And in fact, our broker, Jared, said, this is Josh.
Yeah,
that's right.
Close enough is the J word.
Yeah. Thanks. Sorry about that. But we never really quite figured out why the other lender just kind of fell silent, and it was we stopped having those negotiations and talking about it, and that's when we moved over. So
they just never officially said they couldn't do it. They just
no. It was kind of like there was radio silence there, and it was. And I approached them a a couple of times with different thoughts and options, and they just weren't very interested. And I just thought, well, this is really strange. Is it a no, or is it a maybe, or what do you need to see?
We have had that experience as well with just real estate investments and
that's
banks as well. So I guess the key is persistence, and not to feel like just because you got radio silence or one no, not to explore,
That's
you know,
true.
other.
Right.
Because
Now if you get 4 or 5, then you're probably
yes,
maybe
right,
it's not
right.
working for you. Yeah. So that's interesting. I think I learned a very long time ago, a quick no is definitely worth a lot more than just ghosting somebody or disappearing. So I try really, really hard to say, nope, sorry, that's not something we can do. Unfortunately, and here's why.
Yeah.
If you can correct these things, or some people, it's just not the right fit. So
that's helpful on the other side.
Yeah. Sorry that happened to you, but
we appreciate it on the other hand. It was working with a knowledgeable, experienced, and honest broker, frankly, is so valuable when you don't know all of the ins and outs of purchasing a business, all the legalities of it. And Josh was all of those things. And, it was a little bit of a leap of faith on our side as well, because we just really didn't know, and a lot of money's on the line. And but most things that he was talking about panned out, and certainly just quieting us down, or at least our concerns, and saying, don't worry about it. I've got someone else. So,
right. He was really good that way.
Yeah, and I actually went to dinner with him last night, and that was one of the things we were talking about. I said, I try really hard as the longer I'm doing this to work with good quality brokers.
Yes.
It makes my life easier, but it just makes sense at the end of the day. He's been doing this for a long time. He knows what he's doing.
Right.
And a lot of brokers you'll see, they represent the seller, right? They don't technically represent the buyer. And a lot of times they kind of just lean that way, right? So there's plenty of them where they look at it like, well, kind of figure out your financing, or figure out the contract, or figure out the structure yourself. Let me know and I'll take it back to the seller. And I think he does a really good job of staying involved and making sure it gets done.
He did.
Yeah, there's been quite a few transactions with him where I'm so glad he got involved and kept it, on the tracks. So
really, it was a great first experience.
Yes.
If you feel like you're doing everything yourself, it's probably time to look for somebody else.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah. So
Josh was very helpful.
Yeah. So all right. So we got your loan approved. Wasn't too difficult. I don't think we changed much. If I recall correctly, I think we added about $80,000 for working capital to make sure you've got some cash. Which was probably almost too much at that point. We've been trying to do a really good job of making sure you've got more than enough when you take over. So. And then I think we were working on the closing process, and then you let us know that you were going to end your career with the federal government. So then, going back to what we were talking about earlier, what really comes into play then is taking another look at, after the fact when we close, how much cash will be coming from the business and how much will be coming from your career or any other investments. So I think you and I had a pretty long conversation about it, trying to figure it out. So, kind of walk me through that. Like, how did that go as far as from your side? Like, how did that feel? Trying to juggle everything, right? Of being and then also being in another country. So,
well, I think it's another lesson learned that we don't know everything. We don't know the industry, and a lot of times there are options. Flexibilities that you're not even aware about, and fretting and worrying and thinking that things are just not going to come through really doesn't serve either party. And
my life motto is low expectations, and then you're always happy, and don't freak out. And so I think out of necessity for survival over the years, that's what developed. And I think that was just go with the flow, right? And
that's some great advice. I should probably learn that. I usually have high expectations for my wife tells me that all the time, like, everyone's not you. Stop projecting your expectations on them. I'm like, all right, so I guess more than one person needs to tell me. That's a great motto. Yeah. So, and I think one thing you could kind of take away from it is, Anything you're looking to do during the process, in the middle of it, or anything, like, always talk to the broker, talk to the lender, and kind of get their feedback and see the best way to attack it. So, we got some information from you as far as like what the income's going to look like after you retire and get out of the government. Underwriter and I kind of got together and tried to figure out, okay, what do we do here? And I remember having a pretty long conversation with you, tried to kind of work through the different options and what we can do. And then ultimately, I got on the phone with Josh and said, hey, is the seller willing to carry a larger amount? And one of the things that had kind of changed during the process that benefited you was the SBA changed their policy in that if the seller note was on standby, meaning no payments for the first 2 years, then we could count it towards your injection. And we could also remove it from the debt service. So looking at it, making sure that you have enough cash flow to pay back the loan and then also cover your personal expenses, we didn't have to factor in that loan. So I got on the phone with them and Josh immediately said, no, this seller likes the buyer. They want this to close. Like, what do we need to do? I said, okay, well, here's the amount of loan that we need to do, which I think was about $650, if I remember correctly. Yep. So dropped by about $250,000 or something, and moved that more to the seller note. And then I think we also lowered a little bit of the working capital because we were probably higher than
half it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, yeah, that's no problem. I'll go talk to the seller. I remember sitting there like, wait, what? Because so many times we have things come up, or even on the beginning, on the front end, I say, hey, we could do that if you structured it this way, and they're usually immediately, no, it's not what we're doing. But he said, well, let me talk to seller and we'll see what we can do. And I talked to you and you said, hey, if they're willing to do that, that works for us. And so fortunately, the seller was willing to increase the seller carry note, and then also put it on standby for 2 years, which helps you a lot on the front end when you're taking over the business, making sure you can pay it back.
Yeah, Josh was really helpful. I remember that conversation we had and just, we were doing all the math and saying, and he was on his side understanding what he had. And I said, well, what do we have to come up with? And at this point, bottom line, and we, you just kind of try to think more creatively, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that I actually think it's kind of fun when obviously it's not fun when that happens. Right. You have to try to, go back to the drawing board. But I do enjoy trying to figure out how to get deals structured and get them done. It's kind of fun. And
it's a creative process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you try at the end of the day, what we're ultimately trying to do is make sure you're set up. So you're not going to call me in 90 days and go, I'm having some problems here. You're saying, hey, we're in a good spot. We're going to be fine. So we, in the end, we got the new structure to work, got the purchase agreement updated. So, kind of looking back at that, did that structure end up working well for you? I know it's been a little bit over a month since you took over. Did that end up working for you?
Yes, it's ended up working just fine. And part of that is, I think, our confidence, both from the research side. We didn't want to buy something that had barely been started a couple of years ago. So the restaurant had been in business for a good 9 years or so, management in place, good income stream 15. That we were able to 15. Sorry.
15.
Yeah.
And she's here to correct any years. That,
she's really the mastermind behind this, all of the success in our lives. But so the reduction in the working capital wasn't a big problem. The restaurant's bringing in enough money that even with some updates and so on that we did to the physical structure and environment and so on, it's just been great. Even it being a slow time of year for us. So
the thing I think, and maybe I'm going way back and finally answering one of your early questions, what appealed to us when we did go in was that, location. It applies to, I think, a business like that as well. Great location, great managerial structure. The sellers had built, a business from their hearts and hard work. And so all of the really important structures were in place. And so there was enough room for creativity there, and to be able to kind of jump in with a family and hope they accepted us, and to kind of, have that synergy of coming in and saying, let's all work together. And the sellers made it clear too, you go your own direction and you make it your own thing, because we wanted to kind of respect that this was something that they had worked hard for, and not just kind of come in and just totally redo everything. And we appreciated that it was a local place, a unique place. We always said if we had a restaurant, we wouldn't want to franchise it or repeat it, that it's just kind of its own work of art, and we'll just go, we could do other, whatever we wanted to do,
Right.
but to let that be just itself and not to follow a very common business structure or blueprint of, So I think that with that, that's what really has been working for us and appealed to us, is that it had the most important things in place. And then there was a lot of room for doing a whole bunch of fun things in place, or not in place, but that we would be able to go on to
in the future. Yeah, great.
Well, those are really good points, and they bring two things to mind. The first of which is just, maybe this is a really common practice, but I was really grateful for the timing with which Josh, our broker, set up a meeting with us and the owners and their son, because we were able to just meet each other face to face finally, connect the dots with who the broker is and who the sellers are, and connect on a very personal and intimate level in a lot of ways, as we just understood what our value system was, what kind of vision we would have for running the restaurant as we took it over, listening to them and understanding a little bit better about how they got to be where they are, and why it's running the way it is. And those were really key things, because it built in that goodwill for them. I don't know exactly what the conversation was between them and Josh, but he was fairly certain that, even though it wasn't his favorite thing to do, I'm sure that he could go to them and explain the situation, and it made sense to them, and they were still willing to keep us on, even with some of the changes in the financial situation. So that was really key. And now I've forgotten the second point, but that was the most important one, I thought, was that building relationships portion. Josh brought us all together at a really good time. It wasn't before all of the pieces had to be together, but it was early enough that we could kind of understand where each of us were coming from, and build up a little bit of a trust and confidence. And they felt like they could start turning over pieces of information, a lot of which are really sensitive. I mean, it's their baby, and we could start investigating and putting pieces together on our side, and planning for the takeover date.
Yeah, there's definitely some work that goes on with the brokers, almost from as being like a psychologist, because you have the highs and lows with the buyer and seller, right? And they never seem to be on the same track. So it seems like a lot of times, sellers nervous about selling, maybe they get an offer, so they get excited. You're excited because you have this, but then you're scared, like, oh my gosh, now I have to buy the business, like, what are we going to do? And it just kind of goes up and down. But if you can get them on the same page, it definitely helps if things come up, like you need to restructure or change something. Also really helps with the transition period afterwards, making sure that they're happy to hand the business off to you. If you need something or you need help with something, they're usually more inclined to come by and help out. So I'm glad he was able to know when to sit you down and go through the process. So So
Josh,
looking,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Josh was really helpful in that. I mean, especially if on paper we didn't have experience running a restaurant, and
Yeah.
so he definitely, and then he was really helpful as well as, letting us know how much the buyers were willing to help us in that transition period, and they were very helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It definitely goes a long way. It makes it easier.
Oh, so much.
So looking back, what do you think was the hardest part of the transaction?
There were a lot of hard parts, but I think the most stressful part was just our own changing circumstances and feeling at one point like, I guess the situation is what it is, and I'm just gonna, all of our options that were in my brain were done. So I needed to just lay it all out and see what happened. And I thought we might lose the restaurant, but that's when all of the creative juices started flowing and the magic started happening up to a level that I never had supposed. So I think that was the most difficult period emotionally for me. But then I think one of the most challenging, just running the restaurant, was taking ownership mentally of the restaurant, and for the owners to start giving up that ownership. One thing we didn't realize as we were going into it and became increasingly clear was just how the wife, part of the couple that owned the business, she was working a lot of hours every week, and she was the heart and soul, and we didn't realize just how integral she was to the daily operations of the business. So I think as we were taking over, we were thinking, wow, we have got to fill this gap that she's going to leave, and we have a pretty short time with which to do it. So we got heavily into the human resources side really fast. Fortunately, we had just phenomenal staff. And I think that's one of the other key things was we were fairly assured before taking over that the staff wasn't just going to jump and run.
Yeah.
And that was one of the other points I was thinking of, is one of the things we had heard about and we'd put a lot of thought in and discussed was that we wanted to be observers. This was a successful business. We weren't going to go in there as a bull in the china closet, so to speak, and just change things. We wanted to just see why it was working the way it was working, get a feel for the people, reassure them that we weren't there to change things, mess things up. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's difficult to do. You mentioned, just filling. There was no way we could fill in for the owner's wife. They're both owners. So the wife, and because she was the heart and soul, so we can learn her job, but they called her Mama.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Right. And sweet woman. And so, Mama's leaving, right?
Yeah.
And she's, so that being very, very respectful of that and just honoring that and, but not trying to repeat it and make that, but going with what we can do and joining the family is what we're joining.
I think is also being able to understand that there was some really positive attributes to that, and saying, okay, I'm gonna just come in here and try to learn, and then almost emulate that Mama, right? And then there's sometimes where you get in and you go, no, there needs to be some changes here. We do need to come and flip the table over and figure it out, right? And so learning that, I think that's the hard part of taking over a business. Is there's always the idea is to don't change anything for several months and kind of observe and see. But there are times where you come in and go, no, we need to change this now or we're going to lose the employees. They're doing something wrong. They're doing something illegal. There needs to be changes here. So I think you kind of realize that they had it together and you needed to just be able to hopefully come in and
or it was just
absorb
holding
it.
together, and you're like,
Well,
Yeah.
one of the very first things we did, and we had planned on doing it, was we wanted to meet with all of the staff. And that's really difficult with a restaurant, and you've got people coming and going and so on. But we did set a time, a good chunk of them, certainly the long-term ones that had been with the restaurant for a number of years showed up. And it was just great to just introduce ourselves, tell them our background, listen to their story, and ask them questions about the things that they would love to see happen as far as changes go, things that they loved about it and didn't want to see changed. And so we did a lot of listening, and we had them introduce us to a lot of their processes, and some of them we immediately saw could change or should change or needed to change, if only for our own personal. We weren't mama, and we weren't the husband. We didn't have some of the background that they did. We couldn't pull it off the way they did. So we helped, or we felt that they were helping give us some ideas as to things that could change. And then we went just pretty slowly. Fortunately, there was nothing that was earth-shattering that we had to change immediately. But we were able to start implementing some improvements, and have gotten some really good feedback from our staff that they were very nervous at the very start and didn't know what to expect, but that they appreciated more of a not hands-off, so to speak, but not being heavy-handed and not trying to just change things because of our own view, but allowing the business to continue, allowing the environment to still be that relaxed and happy environment, and then just looking for ways to improve things, making sure that the payroll and so on, the payments were made on a very regular time schedule that they really appreciated, and that we were paying attention to some of the upgrades in the physical environment that just hadn't been done for one reason or another over the years. And so I think that was one of the...
I'm sure you fixed all the computer problems, right?
Yeah.
I did.
You did.
I figured you would, yeah. So.
And the key is it's a people business.
Yeah.
It's not a food business, right? It's
100%, yeah.
And we told them...
You need to have good food, but you got to take care of the people.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right?
Yeah.
But and we told them the first thing we said is we're going to have fun, or keep having fun, because that was one of the things the manager said, and that we wanted them to be creative. So,
cool. Yeah, so you let them be free to.
Yeah.
They're obviously not. They hadn't messed it up already, so might as well keep it going.
Right.
Yeah. So cool. Well, it's been a lot of great information, and I really appreciate it. I ask 2 questions at the end always, so we'll have both the answer. The first one, it will start with you, Joy. Have you had a mentor, or do you have a mentor?
I know I do, but I'm trying to think, and I'm blanking out. Let's see. Do I have a mentor? I'm sure you can cut this.
Yeah, we could skip to Eric if he knows the answer. We come back to you.
Yeah, maybe I need a little think time.
Sure.
Well, there's so much really good information out there, and it can come through so many different avenues. I've listened to so many great people that have given me some great ideas and insights about just owning and running a business, the legal side. I've really appreciated the KKOS lawyer group and the videos they have put out there, and I've listened to a lot of Cody Sanchez and have really felt like they had principles that I really harmonized and felt harmonized with what our goals were and so on. So I really appreciated those. So I consider those 2 kind of my primary mentors. So thank you if you ever hear this.
We'll send it to them.
Yeah, but I think they've really helped prime our mental state and view about what purchasing a business and running a business should look like. Even though we have to go through that learning curve ourselves, we at least had some principles at the back of our minds. We think, okay, this is where we want to go. This is how successful people have proven that we can do it. So we keep our vision set on where we want to go.
Great.
Well, I think everyone around me has been a mentor. I think everyone has something to give and to share, and you just,
Yeah, that's a great positive outlook. Yeah.
Well,
you can always learn from.
I think you should include your dad.
And my father, for sure.
He'd be a mentor to me as well, but he was always one of those that was just encouraging us to just take risks and do things that were fun and that were engaging and challenging, and just always so supportive.
He was the son of immigrants and grew up in the south side of Chicago, and so there were some nights he had mustard sandwiches or waited for his oldest brother to come home from caddying with tips so they could go buy the end parts of the meat from the butcher shop. But yeah, he just always was trying to take advantage of opportunities. He said that, keep your doors open always, and to observe and to use the bank's money, for whatever, and just so for sure. But absolutely, just learning from everyone around you, because everyone's got something to offer, and just really enjoying that, just having fun and just seeing what you can get. We're in the midst right now of trying to renovate, and it has not gone the way we thought it would go, but you go with the flow, and you learn from, even when people fail you, they're still a mentor. And as you try to pull out the good things in them and what they can do, and say, I know you've got better in you, that you both learn, and you just, the problems become the solutions. And so
that's sometimes you think, I'm glad we found that problem, because it's going to make us a better restaurant in the future.
And you won't do it again.
Definitely.
So, all right.
That's the key.
So final question. What motivates you? What drives you to be successful?
I think just, are we having fun? Because that's I think the key motivator is, despite the fact that we both loved the lifestyle that we had, going overseas and living around different cultures and foods and so on. I know I arrived at this point where I thought, I've achieved everything I wanted to in that part of my life, and I'm still moderately young. I've still got some life left in me, and I have other goals. I have other things that I want to do, other adventures, and I've learned that having fun is just so important. So we wanted to do something that's been fun, and
the zero COVID policy in China helped speed that up.
China's zero COVID policy really helped push us out the door. We thought,
I can't even imagine.
This isn't fun.
The flow. We've got stories there. No, for sure. I know it sounds simple or it sounds shallow, but that's, I think, where we find the meaning in life, is as human beings, and we operate based on enjoyment. The brain says, is this good or is this bad? And that computes in the form of it's enjoyable. And so if life isn't enjoyable, if what you're doing isn't enjoyable, then where's the value? Where's the real value?
Well,
because you're making connections.
Exactly. And part of that enjoyment is seeing that the people, the staff that work at the restaurant, and the customers that come in, some of them for years that have been coming in, that they're having fun, that they're enjoying it. But
you need to, just for listeners, always remember that to see the fun through the difficulties, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like I think with what you're saying, there's definitely some information you can pull out of there, because I feel like there's kind of this struggle going on with different generations, right? Where maybe like one generation is saying, all I want to do is have fun, right? And they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to take the journey to get to the part that is fun. Right. But I think what you're focusing on is something that I probably haven't thought of, and I'm glad you're teaching me this. You need to still kind of try to find the fun and not just be searching for fun. Find the fun in what you're doing, and I think that's some great advice.
That's perfect.
Well,
cool.
I'm sure you probably do the same thing, but I know I have to go through this reminding process sometimes on a daily basis. I'm doing the very specific task I'm doing. I'm calling up vendors and I'm arranging terms, and we're getting things figured out, or I'm calling and switching over the electrical service or the telephone service, or the internet's gone down and we're trying to figure out. And I'm thinking, well, this particular thing isn't fun, and it's a lot of work, and I've been on the phone for an hour with this company or whatever, and we're working through it. But I'm my own boss.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
they're not locked somewhere in China.
And the possibilities for the future really are limitless. And I know we mentioned this to the owner's son at one point. We said that this is our creative outlet, and he just said, "What?"
So that's an expensive creative outlet.
I know, but I think we're trying to keep that in mind. Is that we've done the 9-to-5 job, and it has its benefits and it has its reassurances, security, but there's not as much creativity that you can bring into it, and you're capped as far as what the opportunities are and where you can be.
You work for the federal government, maybe. There are other 9-to-5 jobs where there's more.
I think really what you're hitting on the head is what a lot of people are trying to do by buying a business, right?
Yeah.
They're tired of working for someone else, or they're tired of working in corporate America, and they say, I not only can I possibly do this better, but at least I have control of it. And it's, you're working for yourself, and you're able to find a way to make money, but you're doing it for yourself. So I think that's really what we're experiencing, is a lot of people are looking for that. So.
Yeah, and we've used the phrase "it is what it is" many times this past few weeks. But
yeah, definitely.
But I was just going to say real quick, the documentary, the Biggest Little Farm. Fantastic. I love it. And as they were trying to make the flywheel with the ecosystem, with nature, all work together in synchronicity and not have to step in, that it just runs itself. That they ran into a lot of different problems, but I had just mentioned not long ago, but that the problems became the door to a better solution that they never would have even have come up with if it hadn't have been for the problem. So just, looking at the problems is just part of the creativity, the fun, the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So cool. There's a lot of good information. I feel like I have some homework, which is great. So I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited to see what happens next. And next time I'm out here, I'll come by and grab some sushi.
Oh, for sure.
Please.
We would love to have you out.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. We hope you found this podcast informative and helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. For more information, or if you'd like to discuss a transaction, please go to www.jaredwjohnson.com.